those up today. So we are going to get started with public comment in no particular order. Jim Kelly, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Jim Kelly.
I hear you.
Testing?
Yeah.
Okay, testing. Hello? Testing.
There you
All right. My name is Jim Kelly. I live here in Naples, and I've been I guess you consider founding family. I've been here since the school started, actually before the school started. In fact, before the school was even imagined. In the early 90s, I subscribed to Imprimis, when the Imprimis subscription was below 500,000 people. And if you don't know, Imprimis is a letter that Hillsdale publishes monthly. That is a recording of conservative speakers that either visit the campus or have some significant speech that is related to founding a country or has some relationship to education or basically just American exceptionalism. So it was tuned right into my ideology, which is I love America and I love the founding, and I believe that America is a unique country in the history of the world. And so when I heard that Hillsdale College was going to be related to a school that was going to be founded in Naples, I immediately signed my I basically followed the progress of founding the school, and then when I had the opportunity, my kids go to school, and then I moved across the street from the school. So I believe in the school. But more importantly, I believe in the founding principles of the school, which is Hillsdale College. So however this works out, it is my recommendation that the board work feverishly to ensure that the relationship with Hillsdale and Mason is not harmed. And obviously, most parents feel that way. So that is my recommendation. That being said, I think that we as a school need to acknowledge that it's been an uphill battle with our own school board. They've not made it easy. You guys have started from nothing, and you've produced quite a school. And you're running on a shoestring budget, and you're using whatever expertise you can get your hands on. And it's a shame that the monolithic giant Collier County School Board did not work with you instead of against you to ensure that you were meeting all the criteria needed to ensure proper rules are followed, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, thank you for your time, and good luck in the process of maintaining a relationship with Hillsdale College.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. The next one, we have Mr. Conrad Welcome.
My position today is actually, I do support Hillsdale, but more so today is to say that I support the board and what they have done to get us to where we're at today. Everybody wants to take the easy route and say you guys should just step down because life will be easier. I'm sure that life has not been easy for them, having to take all the abuse that they have taken throughout the years, through building the school, through the misinformation put in the newspaper, to the, as you said, the monolithic giant who's trying to take down the school. Now, why do we think that that's the case? People want to make it like they're out to get the board. In reality, they're out to get the school. They're out to get the success that makes Collier County schools look inferior. If the only way that this will stop is if our academics go down in line with the rest of the other schools. It is not a matter of the board. It is a matter of challenge to the power and the authority, because now people are starting to wake up and see that there are better options out there. Many of the allegations that were mentioned against the board, such as voting by electronic means, they're completely made up stories. Voting by electronic means deals with proxy voting when people are not present at a meeting, because when they vote prior to the meeting, they infer that all these actions are taken were illegal, where in fact being at the meeting by phone is completely permissible, and once again a mischaracterization. there's been a lot of focus on comments about the people posting online about a child being suspended after a cell phone incident. Well, that's an explicit rule of the school. Everybody knows that going in. In fact, that is one of the main reasons that many of the people in this room actually have chose to go to the school. So now we have a parent and a child who deliberately break those rules. That phone is then used according to his own story, because I'm sure if you hear the other story, there's probably even more to it. But even according to his own story, that phone was used to cheat, was used to take selfies, was used to post to social media, all during school, and the school took action, which is completely within their right. Then the school is stuck in a position where they can't defend themselves in any of these accusations because of privacy issues, which is not fair to them. They are put in a position where they just have to take the beating. And now what is our response? Our response is, well, just step down. I know you did all this work, but everybody's making it like they created the school. They did not create the school. The board and the other people that have worked with the school have created the school. They're the ones who have put in the blood, sweat, and tears. It is not our right to just say, just step aside. I really didn't want to speak, but I know the majority of the people are of the position that the board should just step down. And I think that is the easy answer, and I think that is exactly what the Collier County School Board wants. And if that happens, they're going to win. So that's our vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person, Mr. Nick Lichter.
Good morning. I don't really speak a whole lot. This is kind of a big deal, so I figured I'd step forward. I hope everyone reads the FAQ, those frequently asked questions and answers. A lot of people put a lot of work into that, and it'll help people with some misunderstandings. You know, for like 20 years, I've been a property manager, community association manager. So I deal with 5% a lot. Well, they're always going to be there. We call them condo commandos in our business. And I have to work with them. You know, it's pool's too cold, pool's too hot, sun's too bright, it's cloudy, it's unending. So when parents come forward with complaints about the way their child was disciplined, and they put their side of the story out all over social media, I contest that until that parent forfeits their FERPA rights and allows the entire community to see the true story, and there are a lot of them. Until they do that, it's irrelevant. You don't address it. You can't do it. So I would love to see all those parents who are here now with those complaints form a single line, single file right over there, waive your FERPA rights in writing, and let the chips fall where they will. As everyone here knows, well, not everyone knows. For about 5 years, Kelly, Mr. Hull, myself, Mr. Marshall, probably Mrs. Turner and myself, we've given a ton of time helping other schools. Hey, how'd you do it? How'd you handle this? All over the place, not just in Florida, just free advice. So for people to lambaste any of those people for giving people free help, not earning a dime, it's really kind of, and then saying it's a conflict? Wow, we've been doing it for a long time, and we'll continue to help other people open these kinds of schools for free. As far as Hillsdale goes, it's odd. It's really odd that a newly installed provost, who I think was a science professor, gets this report and then like within 48 hours said, you guys got to step down. Doesn't even know you guys. And then 2 days later you hear that Miss Donalds has a classical charter school management company and she's a Hillsdale whatever. It just stinks. And I think we can all see through this, read between the lines. We know what they're trying to do. They would love to take over our school. They've been trying to do it for years, and we know who they are. Anyway, I applaud the board for your courage, your perseverance, for your knowledge of your inalienable rights given to you by God, not the government, not the district. Last thing, that expression that it's the rule of law stands true here. It's not the rule of lawyers.
Your time is up.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Mr. Calvert.
I want to try and touch on things that haven't already been addressed, but I too am urging everyone here to support the board, Principal Hall, and Mr. Whitehead. I have read the investigative report. Pages 1 through 27 is a bunch of, you didn't hold a board meeting right, you didn't provide the treasurer with the right information. A lot of stuff in that report, that's what they allege. This is a one-sided investigative report. I wanted to show up this morning to urge everyone that this is a very serious accusation, that this is a 61-page report that could have been condensed to 15 pages because it's so repetitive. 1 through 27 has nothing to do with our children. It has to do with the board's management of the school, and it talks about quorums, and he alluded to the electronic thing. The gentleman in the report talks about a quorum, an electronic. At no time in the report is there any evidence that you even tried to do an electronic anything. You called in by phone, which is legal. He references the Attorney General from a rule from 15, 20 years ago. I've been a part of a big corporation, and we have quorums all the time, and as long as everybody on the phone can hear what everybody else is saying, it is a legal quorum, period. And I think that the board is on the defensive right now. Yes, I don't want to belittle the 5 or 6 cases in the report. I would like to point out, on page 3, multiple parental calls, complaints, and student departures, yet no supportive evidence outside the 5 or 6 documented cases in this report. A 1-year report, numerous people leaving the school, numerous complaints, 5 or 6 documented. With that being said, those here that kids were involved in those 5 or 6 cases, I'm not going to take away from that. I wasn't involved. That's between you and the school. I do agree with the FERPA comment that was just made. There's a lot of things the school can't do. I do find a lot of the things in the report after page 27 disturbing about things that Principal Hall allegedly have done. Mr. Whitehead, Kelly, some social things that were put out. But I would like to point out that I also realize that you folks are human. And we all have a breaking point. And sometimes it might not be in the best interest of you, but you get tired and you just can't keep your mouth shut anymore. And you have to put something out there on social media. You know, it's sad we all do it. I don't believe that that causes myself to lose any respect for the board or Principal Hall or Mr. Whitehead. I do think as an outcome of this, measures can be put in place. I talked about a PTA that we don't have, a little bit of oversight, but I don't believe getting rid of anybody at this point. And I appreciate, on behalf of my daughter, Danielle, I appreciate this school. Very emotional about this because I do feel for both sides. I want to make that very clear. I know there's some angry people,
Your time is up.
but I love you guys, and let's go on.
Mr. Tanner.
Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Michael Tanner. My wife, Pam, and I are parents of 2 children who have attended MCA for the past 3 years. I'll start by saying that MCA has been a true blessing to me and my family. From academics to virtue, from discipline to moral character, this institution represents a superior educational foundation on which my children's great future can be built. Now, I've read every word of the 62-page investigation, watched the video, read the Hillsdale memo, and unfortunately perused Facebook posts, which, by the way, led me to become even more concerned. That's a discussion for another time. Formulated an incomplete opinion. I certainly don't believe that the MCA board and administration is without fault. I certainly question some of your actions, inactions, and decisions. I equally question the actions of the Collier County School Board and Mr. Fishbane. With all due respect to those who have struggled to resolve conflicts with MCA, there's no arguing that his report is biased and one-sided. It has all the characteristics of a vengeful attack intended to do irreparable damage to the reputation of MCA's board members and administration. Rather than constructive criticism with the hope of corrective action, it is essentially a public airing of dirty laundry, so to speak, intended to disrupt the essential function of the MCA board and administration, with the ultimate goal of making it impossible for the current administration to function as is. The problem is that we've only heard one side of the story. I feel like I'm situated in the first commercial break of a 1-hour Dateline special. But while I know that there's more to the story, Hillsdale is threatening to shut off the TV before I'm done watching. One cannot formulate a valid opinion and make decisions regarding the direction MCA should take without hearing your half of the story, a rebuttal, so to speak. Based upon what I currently know and what I've experienced, I want a fairy tale ending. Ideally, I want Hillsdale to remain, given the academic support, structure, and faculty training they provide. I'd also like to retain the current board and administration that have made this school a place of academic excellence and have helped create the exemplary environment I want for my children. If this happened, I'd certainly expect some corrective actions to be taken. I'm concerned about the school's future. I'm concerned that the information which was made public by Mr. Fishbane places MCA in a position whereby we'll never be the same again, no matter how this plays out. However, I know that MCA is different. The leadership before me has proven its ability to succeed despite the toughest odds. While each of us may share different opinions here, we share so many more common values, and I trust that we all share one common goal, and that's the success and continuation of this great school for the sake of our children. I remain optimistic and confident that we will not only salvage what we have, but we can make MCA even better than before. My fairy tale ending has some rather tough odds stacked against it. There are so many factors in play, so many factors that could change even as we speak. Whether the MCA board chooses to fight a difficult battle or to compromise, given probable outcomes and what's at stake, I support you, and I support the decision that you make. I just pray with all my might that any decision you make is ultimately in the best interest of the school, the families, and especially the students of MCA.
Thank you. Ms. Chrissy Lewis.
Good morning, board. I'm Christy Lewis. My 2 children have attended Mason Classical Academy since day 1. I've been in the field of marketing research for 22 years, so this is how I see the world. And with having a meeting at 8:30 in the morning, I felt that maybe some parents couldn't express their views, as well as there might be some silent majority on Facebook that was not speaking out. So I decided to institute a survey on the MCA community Facebook page. A survey's purpose is to query a sampling of the total population in order to discover information about the total group. It's not a census. One can draw conclusions about a whole population based on a sample if you obtain a representative sample. There's 4 reasons why I believe we obtained a representative sample. This survey was posted on the MCA community Facebook page, a closed group. The Facebook members are vetted by the MCA administration to ensure they should be allowed onto the page. The link was posted there. Of the 550 or so members, 235 respondents took the survey, which is a lot. The survey was active from around 9 p.m. on Tuesday night through 7 a.m. this morning, around 34 hours. The majority of responses occurred in the first 3 hours after posting the survey, between 40 to 50 responses per hour. After that, around 5 responses per hour were obtained. This trend demonstrates that the survey got to its intended audience quickly, and an extended time frame really was not necessary and would not yield significantly greater participation. Third reason that this is significant, the data was obtained, the data that came in was consistent from the first 20 respondents to 100 to 200. The percentages of data points didn't swing wildly over time. It in fact didn't swing more than 2 percentage points, which tells me that we are overrepresenting the population with the sample size that was obtained. There are around 600 families with children at Mason, just over 550 members on the MCA community page. With 235, you could conservatively say that these responses represent 117 families if 2 spouses or guardians were both voting in the same manner, which would be 20% of the Mason family population. Let's get to the data. There were 3 simple questions. The questions were worded strongly to force a decision. Question 1, select the statement that best aligns with your views. I feel strongly that Mason Classical Academy should keep their affiliation with Hillsdale, and I'm prepared to lose our current leadership. I feel strongly that Mason Classical Academy should keep their current leadership, and I'm prepared to lose MCA's affiliation with Hillsdale. Or undecided, I have not yet made a decision. Undecided was 12%. 79% of respondents selected, I feel strongly that Mason Classical Academy should keep their affiliation with Hillsdale College, and I am prepared to lose our current leadership. When later asked what actions would be taken, if MCA keeps their current leadership, your family intends to remain at Mason, withdraw from Mason, or undecided. I was trying to assist the enrollment numbers, maybe Chuck Marshall with his numbers. 32% of respondents are undecided. They cannot make a decision at this time if the current leadership remains. 38% of respondents selected they would withdraw from Mason. Question 3, if you obtain new leadership,
Your time is up.
13% said that they would withdraw from Mason. Obviously, the second option is the less risky for the school on a go-forward basis. I will submit my report and my cell phone. And this, and I have send copies.
Thank you. Please, Violet Caswell.
Hold the mic down.
Dear Mason School Board, thank you for your dream, for wanting something better for your children and doing something about it. You made Mason Classical Academy a reality not only for your children, but also for many students who have attended or continue to attend Mason, myself included. My family joined the dream in the summer of 2013, a year before the school opened. I was scared of leaving a school where I was doing well, but Mason seemed like the education my parents wanted for us. The curriculum in connection with Hillsdale sealed the deal for my family. I have flourished during my 5 years at Mason. I have grown not only academically and socially, but also as a member of our community and nation. I strive to live out the pillars of virtue I have learned during the first days at Mason. Responsibility, respect, perseverance, integrity, honesty, courage, citizenship, and cooperation. I credit this in large part to Mason, to the curriculum in connection with Hillsdale, to the dedicated teachers and staff and the board. I have not personally had any issues with the school, but many others have. The mission of Mason must remain a superb education of its 851 students above all else. Mason will not remain the same school we love, which benefits us, the students, if Hillsdale severs its ties. I have grown roots here at Mason and am concerned that we will not only lose Hillsdale, but also many teachers as they look for work elsewhere. Because of this situation, we, the students and their families, cannot wait to see how this unfolds in the coming months. Families like mine have hard decisions to make, and they cannot wait until the end of the summer to do so. I am asking the board to do the good, to prove to everyone that you are willing to put the students first, to live all the pillars of virtue you taught us, to be courageous and step down for the good of us students and the school, or at least be open to other possibilities. I realize that what I'm asking is difficult. Mason's 851 students, including myself, are counting on you to make the sacrifice in order to preserve the continuity of our education and our emotional well-being. You have the power to save the school now by courageously sacrificing yourself for the greater good by stepping down or seeing other options. If you step down, the Mason family, and most importantly, the students of Mason, will see you acting out the pillars of virtue, will see your sacrifice, and we will see you putting us first. We are so grateful for what you have done for the school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Caswell. Ernesto Solo, I'm sorry. How do you pronounce it? All right, you take that one on. Thank you.
I'm going to try to be brief. I'm a Cuban immigrant. I came from the United States when I was 19 years old. Then I went in the Marine Corps at the age of 21. I could barely speak English. Okay? I swear to the flag and defend the Constitution and yada, 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 yada. That didn't make me American. I'm going to tell you what made me an American. I don't have any combat experience. I wasn't active duty, but I had to experience to go to the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Iwo Jima. To the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Iwo Jima. I was on top of Mount Sarabachi. If you guys don't know what that means, look it up. I helped many veterans to go up and down that beach because they want to go down. It was 50 years later. They want to go down and touch the bottom of the sand where they landed, and instead we're going up. many of them would tell me that they had to dig in the sand to stay alive. Because there was a lot of fire coming down, and anybody kept their head up, they would get killed right there. Well, the dilemma that they were having was that the Navy was bombing the island. Every time a bomb landed in the island, the sand would shake so hard that would lift those Marines back up, and they'll get shot up right there. Miss Kelly, I'm looking in your eyes and telling you, keep digging, keep fighting, don't quit, don't give up. Hillsdale, I love Hillsdale. I'm a fan. But what you're doing, you made me proud, like those Americans did to me. That's what made me an American. Don't give up. You hear me? Don't give up. Thank you.
Mr. Thornburg.
My name is Brian Thornburg. I'm a pediatrician, and I know this is a difficult situation for everybody. I have a lot of kids here. I was participated a lot before the Mason was founded. One of the board members came to one of my lectures. Another one of the board members provided the screen that I still use to give all my lectures. I chose to come to this school because it's a constitutionally based school, and I supported it wholeheartedly. When one of my children had a difficulty, I learned pretty fast that the Constitution was not being represented here. It was a one-sided story. You can read about it on that post that I put. Just real quickly, you confused two different stories. When you said that, there were two years apart on those two stories. When I met...
In response to that, I've heard many people tell me that your kids are very...
We're not going to get back and forth, please. Please direct your comments to the board, please.
So the fact that a school that is based through Hillsdale on the Constitution yet does not afford parents and children constitutional rights makes me very disconcerted. And I've experienced that multiple times. Kids are kids. Kids will be kids. People will make human mistakes. I understand that. I'm a pediatrician. I tell my parents all the time, nothing will make a parent more irate than putting their kid into a dangerous situation. Most rational people will become completely irate if their kids are in danger. And I have felt that here. I have not become irate. All of my email communications were very respectful. I did not receive the same in return. I hope that there was a post today that hopefully we can settle this by keeping Hillsdale, moving 2 members of the board to an emeritus status, and allowing Hillsdale to create a new board. That way everybody saves face and everybody can move forward without disruption. I'm very concerned of what will happen if that step is not taken.
Thank you, Mr. Thornburg. Ms. Kelsey Norton, please.
Hi, my name is Kelsey. I'm a parent to what I hope to be a 3rd grader next year here at Mason. When we started here at Mason 3 years ago, I heard all the banter and the rumors surrounding Mason's leadership and how they conduct the school. But we thought, you know what? Everyone's experience is unique into themselves. So we shouldn't let what we thought were isolated incidences deter us from a wonderful opportunity to allow our child to be provided a classical, Hillsdale endorsed education. So we moved forward with our decision to enroll our child, despite what the community's reputation was of Mason. And we have stood by and supported this school for 3 years, always hearing out the leadership in times of turmoil and continuing to support them because our child has thrived here. And we can truly say that the education provided by the teachers at Mason is unparalleled. The education that has been provided, though, is without a doubt due to the training and support Hillsdale has provided our faculty through the years. Kelly, when you started Mason, you chose to align Mason with Hillsdale because you knew the value of having such a well-respected and tried and true curriculum would it do for this school, and I thank you for that. Because clearly 5 years in, and we are outperforming other schools in our district. There is no discussion about the accolades this school has earned and deserves, but I have to say, when the Fishbane report came out, I was ill over it. It took me 2 days to read and digest it, not due to the length or the language used, but simply due to how unnerving it was to read it. Then I began to dig in, and anything I could find about supporting and opposing this document. I listened to the CCPS school board meeting where they presented the report. I listened to the MCA board meeting regarding it. I've read your response email, and I've attempted to seek my own truth in this matter. Do I think that the Fishbane report is one-sided? In parts, yes. There's obvious opinion inserted in it in the report, but despite that, even when you read through just the facts, it's disheartening. At no point have I ever expected perfection from this school. We live in an imperfect world, myself, my child, and my family included. But the issues brought up in this report, which I don't need to negate with you today, are pure tyranny. Just as we have enforced with our children a strict disciplinary system, I have to ask, has this board and leadership held itself to the same standards? I do believe you should be afforded due process, but at what cost? At the cost of our alliance with Hillsdale and the curriculum, which ultimately enticed many parents to decide to support Mason. And to be quite frank, I'm not sure if there's anything that you'll produce in your unbiased investigation that's going to change my opinion. There are some things that you just can't unknow, and some behaviors and actions that are just unforgivable. There appears to be an identifiable pattern about how the board and its leadership handles anyone who attempts or has an opinion that varies from their own. Do I believe there's some truth in the Fishbane report? Yes. But I'm sure, like everything, there's two sides to the story, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. The absolute truth does lie with you, though. I encourage you to come forward with transparency. I will say, even in the few days I have spent looking into everything, there's discrepancies that I've identified between the board statement and the reporting of the last MCA board meeting.
Your time is up. Next speaker, can't read the last name, is it Murad?
Yes.
Julianne Murad.
My name is Julian Murad. I'm a rising sophomore, and this was my first year at MCA. It was an amazing year. MCA's Hillsdale Education is a beacon of light in the troubled educational system. In this school, you learned the true, done the good, and loved the beautiful. Throughout this year, the consistent theme in my classes has been virtue. Dear board, you run a school centered on virtue. Do you want to remain true to what your school is founded on? Do you really want what is best for your student body? MCA is not just a building. It is more than walls, and it is more than board members. It is more than a crest. This school is a Hillsdale charter school, founded by the Barney Charter School Initiative. And if our Hillsdale-driven curriculum falls out, we fall. And it is Hillsdale that has asked for your resignation. If you do not resign, they will withdraw their support. Losing our ties with Hillsdale would be disastrous for the prestige of this school, especially the obvious name recognition on my transcript. You convinced my whole family that this school was amazing. It is. Now please, don't sacrifice my future and other people's futures. Board, as a student, I do pity you if you have been victim of tyranny. It hurts when someone does you wrong. We all know that. However, it simply doesn't matter if you are judged unfairly. As the founders of MCA, as figures of respect for all your students, and as models to your students, you need to recognize your obligation is to your obligation is to the welfare of your students. And if you do not step down, you are only bringing disappointment, disillusion, and a watered-down dream to your students' classrooms. You have done well in your time. Now please honor your legacy. You have provided the groundwork for many future generations of MCA students to flourish. If you want to continue your dream for this school, you will not let Hillsdale leave. While it may seem like waving the white flag, your resignation will actually be a sign that MCA will continue to be strong, despite adversity, despite change, and despite the hateful voices of those who do not realize what we stand for. Lord, you are toying with people's futures here. You hold your students' fate in the balance. So please, make the choice that exemplifies what we stand for and provides the best outcome for the school. In short, be a paladin.
Thank you. Mr. Cutting, you ready? Are there any more comments? I'm sorry, before you begin. Are there any more comments that were submitted back there? This is the last general public comment.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you. I support the board, I support the school, I support you personally, I support the leadership team that is here. As your husband said, I feel that the Cuyahoga County Public Schools are trying to take Mason Academy down. But I unfortunately feel that the actions of the board are playing right into their hands. They've conducted what we all feel, I think, is a one-sided investigation and not giving you a chance to rebut it. Well, what you're going to do is just what they did. You're going to hire your own investigator, and no matter what their conclusions are, unless they completely go along with what CPS has said, nobody's going to take put any stock in. So what I would recommend you do is the current board members should place the senior leadership that's been identified by Hillsdale, excuse me, on administrative leave, and you should resign on a temporary basis. Allow Hillsdale to appoint an interim board and leadership team with the proviso that the appointments may be temporary, pending adjudication of the matter. Allow the interim board with assistance from Hillsdale to hire an independent investigator to review the CCPS report and provide those determinations to Hillsdale. Then allow Hillsdale to determine the validity of the charges and either recommend reinstatement of the previous board or retention of the new board. Thank you.
All right, the next item up on new business, we're on new business on legal. We do have a public comment. Mr. Nick Lichter. Oh, on amend mediation? So the legal is the attorney. Yeah, that's you.
Please tell me, what does the agenda item actually say?
Legal.
That's it?
Yeah, we put legal.
But that's hiring the attorney? Okay, thanks. So, before I get started, I encourage everyone to read the FAQ. There is a ton of misunderstanding here about whose curriculum MCA uses.
Right, you need to direct the comment to.
All right, so I recommend that you hire outside counsel because there are no facts in Fishman's report. They are alleged facts. It's a legal term. Alleged. Refused to accept any documentation from the school to show their side. Refused to interview any of these three people. Any of you three. None of you. Not a single question. Not even interrogatory, a list of questions. Hey, answer these questions. Nothing. Then take that investigation, give it to Dr. Arn at Hillsdale College and say, okay, I think you messed up. You obviously had a knee-jerk reaction. And if they still want to bail on us, good riddance. They're not who we thought they were. Due process is a real thing. Another reason to hire this attorney, conduct a proper investigation. So that, and that way when Hillsdale does leave, you keep your curriculum. Your curriculum is purchased, selected by Principal Hull, not by Hillsdale College.
Can you keep your comments to the hiring the attorney?
Yeah. Okay, final parting comments. And this is in response to the board's message about hiring an attorney. I received an email from a parent. I'll leave out her name. To say it bluntly, a resounding hell yes echoes from our family. As a family of 13 plus adults who support MCA, we stand ready for what our school may ask of us. Our children are watching what we do, and MCA's calculated and reasonable response speaks loudly. I look forward to exposing our children to the process of due course, of doing the right thing regardless of the situation, of rising to the occasion when bravery is needed, and to the good and true nature of the school, of which they are so proud. So when justice prevails, as it will, they will value MCA in a deeper way. Gosh, I wish all school-age kids had such an opportunity. Thanks.
That have to do with legal counsel.
Okay, so, last board meeting, we discussed hiring, and you guys gave me the authority to seek out an attorney. So I did reach out to some recommended attorneys. I did meet with a gentleman by the name of Michael Coleman. He's a board-certified business litigator. He's one of the founding partners of Coleman, Hazard, Taylor, Klaus, Duke, and Diaz. He is AV rated, which is the highest level of rating. I know comments have come in about hiring this attorney. He has no relation to any member of the board, any member of the school. He has no conflict of interest. He is completely independent. So we voted to move forward with getting an independent outside counsel to look at these claims. At this time, Mr. Coleman, after our meeting, and I need to pull up the communication, he would like to move forward with the school. His scope of work is specifically tied to the Fishbane list of allegations, and he would do it on an hourly basis. He believes that it could cost around $25,000.
Wow.
So I'm asking the board, I don't have, the engagement letter is, just boilerplate, but that hourly basis for $25,000. Do you have any questions, comments about Mr. Coleman or moving forward?
I just have a couple comments. First of all, I think I've read Mr. Coleman's ratings and background, and he seems like a highly effective and regarded attorney. As the board chair mentioned, he is completely independent from Mason Classical Academy, which I think is another plus. And potential engagement cost of $25,000, I think that is well worth it, considering what we are hiring or potentially hiring him to do. Just as a frame of reference, we were looking at potentially installing a fence around the school's property, and we engaged an attorney to help us with that process, and they sent us an estimated cost to shepherd that process would be $25,000. So we're looking at the same cost of, I feel, independently looking into the true, doing a true investigation as the same cost as looking at installing a fence. I think is well worth it.
Any comments?
I know there's a lot of emotion in this room. I know there's been a lot of representation on the Facebook page just recently that to me pretty clearly defines that there are some very basic differences in philosophy about how children should be educated and how they should be raised. I don't know if many of you realize, I know that most of you don't realize everything that has gone into actually keeping this school viable and keeping it as successful as it is. I also don't think that you're really considering that you can't unbreak the glass. You can't come back to the place of purity that's been maintained for so long by succumbing to the wishes of every single individual that wants their way. And I'm sorry. We're not happier as a whole. But I hope that we will find a place of healing after all this. But I do feel absolutely that we must stand up for what's right and must stand up for our belief in constitutional American values, and that it's very important that we as a school not buckle and that we hire appropriate representation to get us through this issue.
I was just going to make a point too, that it's important that, you know, these are some serious allegations, and it's important that we as a board get to the bottom of it, and I think this is, you know, the next best step. So I don't know if there is a motion to approve me signing the engagement letter with Michael Coleman, but I think that's, he's highly rated and, to me, the right person for this.
Yeah, I have another comment, and I was going to save this for board comments, but perhaps it's more applicable for this topic. Back in 2008, before my family moved down to Naples, we were living in a town outside of Boston called Medfield, and Medfield had a very strong lacrosse program, so I liked to attend the high school games. And one game, I happened to notice that the head coach for Bryant University Lacrosse was sitting in front of me, so I decided to, he was wearing a jacket, so I decided to introduce myself just to see who was recruiting. I said, yes, in fact, I am the head coach of Bryant Lacrosse. My name is Mike Pressler. Mike Pressler, for those of you who don't know, was the Duke lacrosse coach for when the students were wrongfully accused of, or his players were wrongfully accused of rape. Duke immediately fired Mike Pressler as Duke lacrosse coach when they, I believe, when they were at #1 in the country, and immediately expelled those 3 Duke lacrosse players. As it turned out, after an investigation, a true investigation into the happenings or the accusations of the Duke lacrosse case, the district attorney for Durham County, a gentleman by the name of Mike Nifong, was removed, disbarred, and jailed following findings, independent findings, that his conduct, primarily conspiring with the DNA lab to withhold exculpatory evidence, would have acquitted the defendants. So Duke University, before any investigation took place, before any trial took place, within days, fired the coach and expelled the 3 players. And at that time, I said to myself, if I'm ever in a governing position at a school and something comes up where, okay, you need to make a knee-jerk reaction, or people are asking you to make a knee-jerk reaction based on accusations, I said personally, I feel strongly that we should be making no knee-jerk reactions until a full, impartial investigation takes place. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve me moving forward and signing the engagement with Michael Coleman and his firm? There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item up. Are there any comments on the next item, amend mediation? I do need to put Mr. Sean Arnold on the phone, so if you bear with me, he is our charter counsel. Give a little background. Currently, we have entered into engagement with the district on the best and brightest scholarship, which recently happened. But Mr. Arnold is recommending recommending that we amend mediation and in light of John Fishbane's, so I thought it would be important for him to bring this up in today's meeting so that the board has an opportunity to ask questions about it and decide if this is in fact what we want to do moving forward. So, Mr. Arnold, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. The mediation process is, I think, was stuck with individually outside the meeting, as an opportunity for parties to get together to have to discuss the disputes that they have between them and discuss the national rights a couple meetings ago. And the reason why we should go ahead and invoke that, and it's the dispute resolution process is provided for in the statute, which if the parties are unable to resolve, it could end up in a court proceeding. So while this board isn't conducting, or outside counsel is conducting an investigation into the investigation, the fact that there will be mediation, in essence, raises the matter in place and has the parties put together. It's a formalized process which would bring some order to what we have right now, which is kind of a disorderly discussion, or really just not really a discussion at all, just talking to each other in writing or without any third party being involved. The general counsel's office from FDOE provides a mediator. The process is free in terms of that there's no charge for the mediator, so you only have your own expenses that go along with it. And it's not, there's no time frame in which it actually has to occur with it, so it gives us an opportunity to, for whatever the period is, direction we give to the firm that's conducting the investigation to get it done, and then to have a discussion with a formalized agreement as to what, if anything, is going to do as a result of its operation. So I would recommend it as being a process, and then the other part of it is that the process is confidential. So while the process is going on, the two parties are supposed to be quiet. It should help keep the conversation to a minimum and put it in a form that frankly it should be, which is that there should be a dialogue between the sponsor and the school as to what the disputes are, as opposed to the way that this process unfortunately played itself out. So if any board members have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Board members?
Good morning, Mr. Arnold. This is Lauren Honorage. Okay. My question is about, have we been, I'm wondering why we need to do this right now, just as we're deciding to hire an attorney to actually investigate these allegations. Why would we jump into this right now? I'm not understanding why we would not just go forward with what's already on the table.
Well, because there is nothing on the table right now. There's just this open letter, which, our open investigation, which again, I think that the idea is that number one, it shows that there's this response from the board, that it plans to do something. I think that the investigation, I have concerns with things that are in there in terms of the conclusions, the findings, the fact that there was no process where most of the people who remain in the investigation were in question. So we already have a dispute with them, no matter what, even if we were to take, even if everything they find in that investigation is true, the manner in which it was conducted was just plain wrong, and should not occur again. So we already have a right issue with them. This process, particularly over the summer, will take some time to get done, but moreover, it would show that the board is doing something about it more than just hiring an attorney, which I think is a good step to do an investigation. But basically, this is the school standing up and saying, no, what happened here was wrong, and we're going to do something about it right away, which is that we have an investigation. Moreover, again, the optics of it is that we're standing up for ourselves. But third, would be something that would be important to the school. I don't see any downside to doing this, and the mediation will take some time. So whoever the investigator is going to do this, I don't see the mediation occurring for 60 days, if not more, out there. And I think that if the investigation takes 60 days, then we ask for mediation, and we're well into the next school year before these issues get addressed. So I think that this is actually a good time to go forward with it. And we already have a mediation process that started with this. And the other thing is that the mediation process isn't just one sit-down meeting. Oftentimes, the mediator from FDOB gets involved ahead of time. We'll have conversations with the parties, and I say probably half the time, mediations are actually avoided. That there's some resolution prior to the process. So it gives a dialogue, it makes, and I think the other thing is that's concerning is that Mr. Fishman, I believe in his investigation report, said, I'm not taking any other materials like this, it's not listening to anything further. This process would kind of compel that to occur. So I think that waiting on this, it's going to be problematic. But then the other thing is that while we have this best-and-brightest thing going, this cloud of the investigation is going to be hanging over it anyway. So I think that it's going to be something that needs to bring it all together. And I don't see a reason to not go ahead and amend the process right now.
Did you have a question? My only concern, Mr. Arnold, is, now that we're going to move forward and engage council, my concern, and I'd want to ask Mr. Pullman if this would impact his ability to fully conduct his investigation. If what you're saying now is that everything would now be, nobody can talk. So that's my concern. And no, so I don't want to do something, premature without talking to our outside counsel on this. That's just, I want to be very careful. As you know, I predicted this several months ago, what the district was doing and planning. So I think we need to be very careful at how we do this. And I really think it would behoove us to talk to outside counsel that we're engaging to ensure that this process is done properly. And I don't want to be premature, especially considering the school board hasn't actually submitted a letter to us, unlike the best and brightest, if you understand what I'm saying.
So the best and brightest, just have a couple comments on that. The best and brightest was a recommendation from the district to the auditor. So we were trying to stop that process. But in terms of we can't talk, the point about the conversation is not that the two parties can't talk, and it's not that your investigator can't talk to the individuals who are at the school. It's that they should not be discussing it any further in public, because the dialogue of the process of mediation is confidential. And honestly, to me, that is the thing that I'm most concerned about, is that it's basically to get the two parties to stop. I think actually I'm quite restrained in not going to the public, not going to the press, or not having a public dialogue about this. But I think it's really what generally starts is that the mediator would request that the parties not engage in public dialogue about this anymore, so that it doesn't voice well. So it's basically putting the gag order on the 5 members
Thank you. Board members, are there any other questions for Mr. Arnold on this topic? Okay, is there a motion to amend mediation at this time?
I make a motion to amend mediation as described by Mr. Arnold.
Is there a second? Motion fails. Mr. Arnold, I'm not saying, I'm opposed to this. I'm just thinking, in terms for me, why I can't support amending it at this time is I'd like to wait until we talk with Mr. Coleman, and then we can obviously revisit this as needed. But I appreciate you answering some questions. It's a lot more clear to me. So thank you. Okay.
Sure. One of the things, I wanted to make sure that the board go ahead and address one issue. As I understand, Mr. Bolt's not present in this meeting.
He is not.
Okay, so this actually requires that I think that you have a parent liaison present for every meeting, but also the principal is supposed to be present, or like designee is supposed to be assigned. So it could be a board member, it could be a member of staff, it could be anybody like that. But I would just ask the board to go ahead and just there is a motion designate somebody to be the principal's designee, and that way anytime that there's service not present, that somebody just be designated for it, it's just called section.
Right, and even with him being out of the country, it's still recommended that we do that. So it could be a board member designee.
It could be a board member, it could be, or it could be a member of staff. I don't know. I'm not sure who's speaking. There are only two people who are basically required to be present for a meeting. In essence, every board member could be absent. You still have to have absent. You can still have a board meeting. But those two people are supposed to be designated for each meeting. So it could be, I don't know who's Turner, it could be anybody who's on the board, it could be a member of staff.
Could it be Chuck Marshall or Ms. Mirabali?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It could be anybody who's associated.
Is
Say the U.S. designates someone who's not either a member or
okay. So Ms. Mirabali as academic dean of students K through 8 would probably be a good designee. Is there a motion to appoint her as a principal's designee for today's meeting?
I move to appoint Ms. Mirabali as designee for Principal Hall in this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion about it? All right, all those,
I just wanted to ask, Mr. Arnold, so in the future, as we're going forward, if the Principal Hall is unavailable, if the principal is unavailable, is that something, an item of business that should just be taken care of immediately after the call to order?
Yeah, I would do that. I would, in the call, you either call to order, you designate, either in the minutes would say Mr. Bolt's present, or the designee is here, your parent liaison, who that person is, and then it just becomes part of your script of your legislator, or whoever's
thank you for that. All those in favor of Ms. Mirabali as Principal Hall's designee for today's meeting, state so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Thank you. Okay, board members, are there any board comments today? No comments?
Of all the parties that I guess that are involved with this investigation and accusations, I'm going to say one of the parties that I am most disappointed with is Hillsdale. There were a number of speakers came up here and talked about they like the affiliation with Hillsdale, because of the pillars of virtue, and they always try and say that we do the virtuous thing. But to me, taking an an investigation from the school district attorney, reviewing it, never asking any member of Mason Classical Academy, were you interviewed for this investigation? Were you sent a list of questions? Were you asked to provide any exculpatory evidence? And the answer to each one of those cases would have been no, not at all. We were not asked to participate in this investigation at all. It was a completely one-sided investigation. So Hillsdale, taking this investigation, just took it at face value. Didn't even contact anyone from Mason Classical Academy and say, were you involved? So, and after 2 days, essentially, sent the letter, said you must act, within this 30 days, or else, we're going to do everything that the district attorney for Collier County Schools recommended based on this one-sided investigation and allegations, or else we're going to be non-affiliated anymore. And to me, that's not the virtuous thing to do. That has nothing to do with virtue. So yeah, I would say out of all the parties, I think we know, the district's axes to grind over the years. But I was very surprised and disappointed to see the immediate and non-communicatory action that Hillsdale took with this.
Thank you. I have to agree. So first of all, I will be opening our doors in August, as we have every year. We will continue to operate a classical school. What I find interesting is people say how much they love the school, how wonderful it's been for their family, but let's get rid of the entire leadership team. I don't know of any successful organization would think that is a wise decision to wipe out the entire leadership team and think that everything's going to be wonderful. I do think that Hillsdale, I'm confident that they will want to work together with our board. I do believe that, and we are going to do everything we can to maintain that relationship, but like Mr. Bolduc said, I do have some disappointment. I mean, their motto is defending liberty and pursuing truth, and I have to say I'm very surprised, but Hillsdale's affiliation, while I am very respectful to them as an institution, they don't own the curriculum, they don't own the teaching methods. In fact, I consulted with, for free, so no one freaks out, but there's a school on the other coast called True North Classical. You can look it up, highly successful school. And they are not a BCSI Hillsdale school, and they are extremely successful. They use the same curriculum, maybe a few minor variations, but for the most part, and I've been to their school, I've met with their leadership, their parents. It looks a lot like Mason Classical Academy. So I do want to say that, if they decide to part ways with us, Mason Classical Academy is not going to change its curriculum or teaching methods. In fact, if you're thinking things will be different if Hillsdale leaves, that's not true. Ms. Miravalli, I know the kids are at camp. Would you mind grabbing them for me, please? Mason and Caroline. Yes, please. I do want to address a couple comments. One, this was all, you need to understand, this whole thing has been organized, and I commented to the reporter. In case you are unaware, if I haven't made this clear, in October, a district official told Principal Hall, and I'm sure he would be willing to sign an affidavit and swear an oath to truth. This district official told him in confidence, if I were you, this was October of 2018, if I were you, I would be looking for another job. Now, why would this district official tell him that? Oh, I know, because they were already planning the end of their investigation. I do believe this was organized in the fact that it was a three-pronged approach. first phase was to have John Fishbane conduct his impartial, unbiased pseudo-investigation and then to release the results like he did. Phase 2 was to get Hillsdale involved with it, which I am very disappointed. They've had no dialogue with us since. And phase 3, this is very important. And if this doesn't smell rotten to anyone sitting here, I don't know what else to tell you. But that letter that was sent, and people are saying our board did not address it last Saturday. No, we did not read the letter. But if you listen to the recording, we say to our attorney, we asked him to write a response to both CCPS and a response to Hillsdale. So no, I didn't read the letter because we hadn't even talked to Hillsdale. But what's interesting, when I dug in a little bit and reached out to Mr. Kilgore, because nobody was CC'd on that letter except for the 3 people sitting up here. No staff member, nobody. So I reached out to Hillsdale and said, how in the world is this all over social media? And I'm getting calls and text messages. They told me they sent it to 2 other people. One person was Adam Miller at the FDOE. I reached out to Adam Miller. Adam Miller, did you share this letter externally? No, I did not, but it is public record, and if someone requests it, I have to provide it. But at this time, I have not shared the letter. The second person, besides the 3 people sitting up here, that he sent it to, was no other than, take a wild guess,
The attorney.
John Fishbane. This was the 3rd part of their approach, is to get this letter in the hands of all the parents, get everyone freaking out, and it's been successful. Just watch our Facebook community page. It's like Lord of the Flies out there. And a lot of people are getting very disgusted to see it, because that is not the community that we want here. So I am going to invite my kids up, because one of the comments, and I wrote it down, come on up. In case you were unaware, these are my 2 children, Caroline and Mason, and no, the school's not named after my son, but you can tell people that. It's named after my late father, Don Mason. I'm going to first say this. That school name, if I'm going to be forced off this board and out of the school that I founded, my husband and I founded for these 2 kids, forced. Now, when I'm ready to step down, and we, the board, determine who is going to take our place, that's what the bylaws state. And I will be ready at that time. However, we are still in our infancy as a school. And I am certainly not going to let some coup take over this school and think that they're going to use my father's name on this school or on these uniforms. That will not happen. And people talk about, oh, your father's legacy, your legacy. Yeah, you better believe I care about my father's legacy. And I miss that man more than ever. But I'm not going to let some of you take over this school and put his name on your new school that doesn't stand for the mission and vision that I set out for these 2 kids. So, one of the things that said here, we are more than board members. That this is bigger than us, and it's about the kids. It's not saying, hey, it's not about us. No, this has never been about me. This has never been about me. It's been about these 2 kids right here. And I wanted nothing but the best for them.
Just those 2?
When this started, okay, I'm not going to engage in a back and forth, but when this started on my family room floor, and we started discussing this, you better believe, yep, this was about my 2 kids. And I am so grateful that so many other families were looking for something better and wanted better education for their kids. And there is a silent majority out there who stands with this leadership, who stands with Principal Hall, and stands for the mission and vision of this school. And it is appalling that what John Fishbane and the CCPS school district, who in fact is suing the state to make sure that we get less funds for our kids because they attend charter schools. And I have been fighting for all of these kids for years. So don't say this is only about my 2 kids. I spent 4 years on the Collier School Board for the community, for the kids in this community, hoping I can make a difference for them. So, with that said, this is what it is all about. It is about the kids. And the people I've seen on our social media, it's not about the kids. And you're making an all-out war. I love you guys, and I will continue to fight for you guys.
I would like to say something else. You know, when people don't get what they want, when it doesn't fit their agenda in a media-centric culture that we have, it feels good to make demands. It feels good to claim an injustice. But I want to give you an example. There are parents whose children would still be happily attending Mason Classical Academy if we allowed in-school suspensions. Being obligated to take accountability for our children's behavior is challenging. And some would prefer being in the role of buddy and letting the school be the disciplinarian. Simple, fundamental differences in philosophy are the only things being exposed that we're talking about today. It's not any wrongdoing on the part of the parents that have philosophical differences. It's not any fault of the leadership of this school. But instead of agreeing to disagree agreeably, for some reason, there's an incredible temptation to demonize. What I have been really impressed with on our community page, what I've been really impressed with seeing, going back and forth and sitting back and watching this all unfold, is the amazing amount of passion in our community. We've always known that's there. There's also an amazing amount of talent, organization. There are a ton of skill sets, similar to the two people who sat on their living room floor and started this school. And I really do wonder why, for years, all of this effort and passion couldn't go into something that would be wonderful for more students in Collier County. I don't get it. I just don't understand. If we have such basic differences and that there are people that want things done in much the same way, but in many ways differently, that's wonderful. That sounds like a remarkable basis for another school for Collier County kids. That sounds incredible. We live in a really wonderful town. We have 2 Ritz-Carltons on the same road. I don't think it's like there would be no waiting list anymore if we had more options for students. Aren't we all here because we love our children and we want the best not only for our children, but we want to expose and enlighten this curriculum and this method of teaching, this education for as many students as possible. That's what we all wanted all along. So why are we fighting each other? Aren't we all on the same side? When did we get to be on opposite sides? And isn't that exactly what people who want to take us down, isn't that exactly what they want to see? Why in the world can't we come together and help each other create more options instead of turmoil? It's shameful. Thank you all.
All right, if there are no further comments, this meeting is adjourned.